Hello everybody, Mrs. Fondre here, and today we're going to get a little festive in the Art Room and talk about different holiday traditions from around the world. Now, you might know this, but Christmas is celebrated in a lot of places, and some places might do things similar to what we do in Wisconsin or do in Waterloo, but there are also some really fun traditions out there that you may have never heard of, so I thought it'd be fun to explore those a little bit today. All right. We're also going to talk about a few other holidays that happen around this time of year because there's a lot of things happening. Okay. It's the end of the year. We got lots going on. So let's start in Italy. In Italy, they invented the nativity scene. And if you think or you're not quite sure what that is, it's when people made those little buildings with little people and figurines, usually to represent the Christmas story. Sometimes that can be found here in the United States. And it was actually invented in Italy. So they're the ones that started the whole thing. I know I have one of those at my house. It's pretty fun to set up. A more unusual one that you may or may not have heard of is that children will go caroling, which you may have heard of caroling, where you go out and sing and bring festive cheer wherever you go. But the children will dress up as shepherds and they'll play shepherd's flutes, and they'll sing songs as a group of kids, which is kind of fun, kind of neat. And I think a very interesting tradition in Italy is that presents and gifts are brought by La Bufenda, and that is an ugly witch, is what they call this lady. So this lady on a broomstick will come around delivering presents to you. It's kind of goofy, right? I love it. So in Italy, if you look where this red circle is, Italy is in southern Europe, okay? Kind of looks like a boot floating in the water there a little bit, all right? The next place I want to talk about is Sweden, because they have this really cool one of these big celebrations called St. Lucia's Day. And what the story is from many, many thousands of years ago is that there was a young girl who was secretly bringing food to Christians that were hiding in Rome. And the reason they were hiding is because people were kind of hunting them down because they didn't always like Christians back then. So this girl, to be able to hand out food and help these people, she would wear candles on her head so she wouldn't have to hold them and she could use her hands to help others. So St. Lucia is all about this girl who wore candles on her head to help others. So every year they usually have a St. Lucia ceremony and people will dress up and they will have lots of candles. Some people will wear them on their heads. And usually it's the girls that do that part where they have the flames on their head. Oh my goodness, so scary. But there are also boys that help with this too, and they wear white robes, kind of like the girls, but they wear tall, pointy hats called Star Boys. All right, they're kind of involved too. It's kind of fun to see everyone dress up and celebrate this a little differently. So, if you don't know where Sweden is, you go really north in Europe. It's this really long, tall country at the very top. Now, Germany I like to talk about because a lot of people that lived in Germany hundreds of years ago, not even 100 years ago, they traveled to the United States and a lot of them settled in Wisconsin. So we might have some of their traditions here. A really popular one is an Advent calendar. Have you ever heard of that? It's where you usually open little doors for every day, counting down till Christmas, and there's like a little candy or a little treat inside of it. Another tradition that we probably, a lot of people I know, at least in my family, do, they started doing Christmas trees. They're the first people that thought, let's take this tree and put it inside and decorate it. So that happened over 700 years ago. So this is a very old tradition, and we're still doing it, and everyone does it kind of in their own unique way, depending where they live. Gingerbread houses, anyone ever do those or see those? That's also a German tradition. That's about 500 years old. So these are some very old traditions that we keep from Germany around here. All right. And I know some of us may have heard or seen or celebrated St. Nick's Day. That's the day where St. Nick's comes to deliver good presents to the good boys and girls. But someone you may not have heard of is Krampus. He is a big horned monster. And if you're naughty, you get punished by this monster instead. So I hope you've been a good boy and girl, because otherwise you're going to get Krampus trying to take you away. That'd be no good. Germany is almost right in the middle of Europe, so I circled that here. Right in the middle. All right. Let's bring it a little closer to home. Let's jump back to North America, and we're going to talk about Mexico. A lot of times in Mexico, Christmas and that celebration is around the middle of December, like December 16th, all the way into January. And one of the really fun traditions they do there is called posada. Posada. I'm probably not quite correctly pronouncing, but it's Spanish for an inn or a lodging. So oftentimes children will run around to houses in the neighborhood and they'll knock on the doors and ask, "Can we come in?" And a lot of times people say no. There's like the story of when Mary and Joseph were looking for some place to live. They kept knocking on doors and no one would let them in. But eventually, in Mexico, somebody will let them in and they'll have almost like a mini party there, okay? You might recognize the flowers that I have a picture of here. Those are poinsettia flowers, and those are traditionally grown in Mexico. So that's a tradition that you'll see around here a lot. I know for sure. I've seen some and have some at my home. And this flower is often called Nochebuena, which is for some reason means Christmas Eve. But if you translate it directly, it's more like a good night. So Christmas is a good night, right? And one of the fun traditions I think we should bring back, or I should take up more of, is using a piñata during Christmas, where you string up a filled paper mache figure and you smash it and you get candy. Oh, it's so fun. I wish I would do more of that. Maybe I should include that in some of my traditions in the future. So in case you're not quite sure where Mexico is, if you don't remember, they're our neighbor to the south. We're actually right next to Mexico. All right. Now, here's one of my favorite goofy ones that I was looking up. Venezuela, people will rollerblade or roller skate to Christmas morning church. They'll close down the roads and people like go to bed early so they have enough energy to rollerblade to church. Oh, crazy. I love it. And another thing that's kind of interesting in Venezuela, people will paint their houses before the holidays. Now, in Wisconsin, you might think, it's too cold to be painting your houses. Well, in Venezuela, it's not quite that cold. So they usually paint and get ready for Christmas a few weeks ahead of time, and they make their whole house painted so they're ready. All right. Venezuela is in South America, and it's at the actually north end of South America. So it's right at the top where that circle is. All right. The last country that I want to talk about with Christmas kind of celebrations and traditions is Japan. This is kind of a newer holiday in Japan, and it's more of a time just to spread happiness, okay? It's not as religious as some other places, and it's almost more of a romantic holiday, kind of like Valentine's Day is for us in the United States. So a lot of times it's time where couples get together and they give each other gifts. So that's kind of unusual or something different. And a really fun thing, their big meal or thing they like to eat for the holidays is fried chicken. So KFCs in Japan will get lists and orders months in advance, so they have plenty of chicken to go around on Christmas. So that's kind of delicious. I wish I had more fried chicken on Christmas. And a traditional Japanese Christmas food is a Christmas cake. And it's more like a spongy cake, kind of like angel food cake with strawberries and whipped cream. It's really refreshing and delicious, I hear. And kind of a fun fact, the shortcake emoji that you might see on a phone is the Japanese Christmas cake. Did you know that? Fancy that, right? So, Japan is pretty far away from North America. It's either across the Atlantic, across Europe, and across Asia over on this little island, or if you'd go to the left or go west, you would be hitting the Pacific Ocean and going around the world that way. So, it's pretty far away, but maybe someday we'll get to visit, right? All right. So, there's two other holidays or festivals going on around this time of year I want to talk about because they're worth mentioning. They're kind of fun. The first one that's really big is Hanukkah, and it's a festival of lights. The story goes that back in the 2nd century, so that was like this year is like 2020, that would have been like the year 200. That's a very long time ago. These people reclaimed this temple that was rightfully theirs, and they wanted to celebrate. So they were going to light the menorah, which you can see a picture I have right here. They were going to light the menorah, but they only had enough oil to light for one day. However, that one day of oil lasted for 8. So it was considered like a miracle. They had enough oil for all these 8 days. All right. So today, when Hanukkah is being celebrated, families light one candle a night. So then by the end of the night and the 8 nights, you have all 8 lit. All right. This is also a time where a lot of families get together. They'll play games. You'll see dreidels where you spin tops and you can win things. Chocolate coins are really popular for Hanukkah as well, and kids love getting those from their families. But one interesting thing about Hanukkah, people think it's a really big deal, kind of like Christmas is a big deal for a lot of people, but actually it's not one of the bigger holidays in the Jewish community. They have other holidays. So Hanukkah is important, but there's other ones people value a little bit more. Fancy that. All right. So the last one I want to talk about is Kwanzaa. It's kind of a unique holiday because it actually has like a date when it was invented. This professor in California wanted to find a way to bring people together. They wanted to bring the African American communities together to become stronger. So in 1966, he invented Kwanzaa. And what he did a lot of research, and he dug into history a little bit, and he found some different traditions from tribes in Africa, and he kind of adopted those to come up with his 7 pillars, or these 7 beliefs of Kwanzaa. So every night they also light a candle, but they're for different reasons. The 7 ideas are unity, which is coming together, right? That's the whole point with Kwanzaa. Self-determination, being able to make yourself go out and do things, having motivation to do it. Collective work and responsibility, so coming together and being a team, right? Cooperative economics, which is kind of a fun one where you support each other's businesses and you kind of almost like shop small kind of a deal that we talk about a lot today. Having purpose, having a meaning, why are we doing this? Being creative, which, hey, you're in art class, that's a great time to get creative. And following on your faith, okay? Believing in what you believe in, all right? So today, let me stop sharing this because I'm all done with that presentation. I'm going to get into what your grade is doing because each grade has a different country we're going to base our project off of. So stay tuned. Hey, first grade, your project is going to be based on the Mexican poinsettia, all right? In school, we would use red and green paper for this, but I'm going to show you how to do it with just coloring your paper, all right? If you have these colors at home, you're more than welcome to do this with the correct color paper, but I'm just going to pretend we all have just white paper and crayons at home. You'll also need a scissors for this one too, because these are actually 4 different pieces that we're going to be gluing together, all right? So let me switch cameras and show you how to draw these petals and leaf shapes that we got going on, all right? So you're going to want probably a longer piece of paper to have room to do a couple of these on it. And out of your crayon supply box, you're going to want a red and a green, okay? I suppose you would be able to use colored pencils or markers for this as well. Depends what you have at home, all right? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start with my red, and I'm actually going to twist my paper sideways, and I'm going to draw a really stretched out number 8. Okay, from the top, I'm going to go over and down and back up and around. And you can see it kind of has the right shape that I'm looking for here, but it's a little more pointy. So what I'm going to do with my curvy part, I'm going to kind of make it more of a point and make the bottom a little bit more of a point because it's more of a pointy flower than a curvy flower. And then I'll color this whole thing in. All right. Now, it's okay if the petals are different sizes because flowers aren't always perfect in nature either, right? The part in the middle also gets a little bit skinny. So I'm going to make it a little bit bigger in the middle because when we cut these out, we want to be able to go around it, okay? Now, what you could do from here if you want, you could already cut this one out and then trace it for your next one, which might be the easiest way to keep them all about the same size. So get your scissors and let's cut this out. All right, I have my 1 petal shape here, and now it's going to be really easy to recreate this because then with a pencil, I can just hold this petal down and gently trace around it. This is what we're actually going to be doing in school. Okay, so it's very similar to what our project looks like in the building today. When I move it, I can see exactly what I have to do. And you're going to need 3 that are going to be this red color, okay? And you're going to need 1 to be the green color. All right, I know I didn't do the neatest job of coloring because I'm trying to go quick for you guys because I know you know how to color these in. The next step is to cut all of them out so you have 4 of these bow tie looking shapes, all right? All right, I got my 4 pieces that look like kind of funky bow ties here. So what you're going to do with a little dot of glue, you're actually going to glue them on top of each other to kind of look like a plus sign. So you're going to put your green one down first, and you're going to put 1 dot of glue. I have liquid glue right by my desk, so that's what I'm going to use, but you can use glue stick or tape too. So 1 dot of glue for liquid, and I have glued on top. It looks kind of like a plus sign. And I'm going to do the next ones to go diagonally in between them. Okay, so I'll do another dot of glue and put that right on top and give it a little push so it sticks really nice. And I have one more, one little dot. I can put this across the middle. You can see all of your petals come together and your green one for leaves to make it look like a nice little poinsettia flower. Now, if you remember from mine that I did at school, I'm actually going to put a little glitter in the middle to make it look a little bit more fancy, but that's totally up to you. If you don't have that, don't worry about it, okay? So when you're all finished with these, well, make sure you let this dry before you try picking it up, because otherwise the petals might want to fall off if it's used liquid glue or glue stick. But if you could take a picture of these and send them to me on the Seesaw app, that would be great. Can't wait to see your beautiful poinsettia flowers from Mexico. All right, happy creating.